right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our third marketing bootcamp session. For those of you guys who haven't met me before, my name is Lisa Bieler. I'm the Director of Membership for SMPS Northern New England chapter and the Business Development Director for Ledgewood Construction. As most of you guys know, we always start our programs off with a few notes of gratitude. So I just want to start off by thanking our sponsors for this year, our corporate sponsors for this year. So Platinum sponsor is GEI Consultants. Our gold sponsor is SMRT and Woodard & Curran. Our silver sponsors are Wright Ryan, SW Cole, and Machias Savings Bank. And our bronze sponsor is CES Inc. So thank you so much again to our sponsors and for your continued support for the chapter. And so before I introduce our speaker today, I just wanted to remind everyone that the fourth and final session of our Marketing Bootcamp is going to be held next Wednesday. Jennifer Booth of Haley & Aldrich is going to review best practices for proposal development. So if you haven't signed up yet, there's still time to register. And as we talked about before, we're going to be doing some sort of get together, hopefully in the fall, for everyone who is able to attend Marketing Bootcamp sessions. So stay tuned for more details on that coming soon. If you haven't already, just take a moment to mute yourself. If you should have any questions, just type them during while Anne's presentation, just type them in the chat box. And we'll share with Anne at the end of the session as well. So let me start by introducing Anne Weidman. She's the Director of Community Engagement for JSA Design and Access Navigators. She tracks trends in senior living, healthcare, and higher education. She teaches a course on community accessibility at the University of New Hampshire and works to educate the public about the role of accessibility in the local economy. Her accessibility expertise and outreach has become a thought leadership driver at JSA Inc., enabling the firm to position itself as a niche expert in existing market sectors. Anne serves on the Portsmouth Pichicucha Committee, is that right?
Oh, boy, I knew you were going to stumble on that one.
We should have practiced.
Good
What
enough.
is it?
Pichacacha. It's a storytelling event.
Okay. Portsmouth Pichacacha Committee, a design and story sharing event that is on the editorial board of AIA New Hampshire Forum magazine. She is a trustee at Strawberry Bank Museum and is part of the committee that oversees the outdoor ice rink. She is a CPSM and past president of SMPS New England and lives in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And Anne, it's all yours.
So I do have to multitask a little bit here because I'm being given the job of admitting people that show up late. So lucky me.
You know, we did something wrong. Sorry.
I don't know. It's close enough. Maybe you're all here. So I also have to put the caveat in at the beginning. I finished putting this PowerPoint together, I'm going to say on about March 16th. And so it was meant for a different time that feels like 100 years ago. But we will say, here we go. And I've done some edits. Oh, I think you want to record these. How do you do that? Or is it? Or do I have to do that too?
No, it's recording. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So that was, I think that was a really impressive bio, and we're all marketing people, so we can all write bios that make us sound fabulous. But I think what I would like to do, oh wait, now I'm not advancing. I'm on screen share, here we go. I want to give you more like the real bio of the real me. When I was a little girl, you know, I'm kind of going to speak for all of us, so you're going to hear my story, but it could be any of our stories. When I was a little girl, we all had these thoughts of what we were going to be when we grow up. And for me, it was the late 60s. I narrowed it down to 3 really exciting choices. Never when I was thinking about that did I say to myself, I want to be a marketer when I grow up, or I want to be a business developer. as it turned out, my career path has just been nothing but a tangle for a very long time. And I don't know where all of you are in career paths, but I hear from so many marketers that we kind of come from all over the place and we end up all over the place. So this is a pretty common career path, as opposed to an architect who gets an architecture degree and becomes an architect and stays an architect. So when I launched out of college in the late 1970s, my hope was to get a job designing corporate interiors, and I got really lucky and I got a job. My dream was to design really hip and cool interiors that look something like this. But what really happened in real life for me is that I designed interiors that looked more like this. And I did that for a couple of years and realized that it wasn't probably my final career path, and I had to think about what I was going to do next. So my logical thing was to go into sales. But now it's the early 80s, and it's southeastern Pennsylvania, and I have to be honest, it was a boys' club, and I wasn't really invited to be part of that club. At the time, we were living in Baltimore, Maryland, and my husband took a reload to New Hampshire. It was before internet, and so we moved to New Hampshire, and I lost every business connection that I had ever built. And so I just kind of took a different career path, and it's a great career path, and I loved every moment of this career path, and I think it's one that a lot of us also have done. So this became my career path for a few years, and I did the terrific things that all of we New England moms do. I taught my kids to do the stuff that kids learn how to do here. Once again, my thing is not advancing. Hold on. I don't know, advice, anybody? Oh, here we go. I taught my kids to skate along with a lot of other things. And my kids actually became really good skaters. And I became that mom that sat on the bench at the ice rink 6 days a week. And I also became that mom who was always bothering the rink manager because the marketing materials weren't current and the rack with all the collateral materials was empty. And it was really hard to plan ahead being the mom on the bench when the rink wasn't giving you the information you needed. So one day the manager came to me and he said, "You're right, we're a mess, and we could really use someone to put together some sports marketing for us." And I'm thinking, that's really not what I ever learned how to do. But sports marketing at an ice rink, I guess, why not just say yes? So I said yes. I stayed there for about 10 years. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. I had so much fun. Because they had never had a marketing person before, I could invent my own job and do anything I wanted. So I got myself a nice big reel camera and I learned how to take good photographs. And I started to be the hockey team photographer for those pig piles of kids out on the ice. And I learned how to paint ice and put corporate logos out there. That is really how those logos end up out there. And the big thing everybody always asks me, and yes, I did learn how to drive the Zamboni. One day, probably 9 years into it, one of the hockey coaches came to me and he said, "I know that you're a sports marketing person, but I have an architecture firm and you're so organized and we just lost our marketing person and we're wondering, would you be interested in talking to us?" And of course, as I do, I just said yes. And that was North Sturdivant, who's the CEO of JSA. And so began my career in the AEC industry, which was kind of where I started with those corporate interiors back right out of the gate, out of college. And so I launched into this career about 14 years ago with JSA. At JSA, until 2 years ago, I was totally an army of one. I did all of the proposals, all of the collateral materials. Because I had learned my way around a camera at the ice rink, I did, when the recession hit in 2008 and 9, I was the person who took the pictures because we couldn't afford to hire the big deal architectural photographers. I'm going to fast forward a little bit, and I'd like you to meet Todd Hansen. Todd is the head of healthcare design at JSA. He's been there about 35 years. He's an awesome guy. He designs hospitals. His real specialty is behavioral health. He's designed hospitals all over the world. And about 10 years ago, he was handed about the biggest lemon you could be handed. He was diagnosed with a disease called primary lateral sclerosis, which is kind of a first cousin to ALS. It looks like ALS, but it's not fatal like ALS. So you get to live with this for a really long time. And Todd came to me one day and he said, could I help him establish a resource for people impacted by disabilities? And of course, you know what I said? I said yes, but I had no idea what I was really saying yes to. Todd and William Tucker, our IT guy, and myself put our heads together, and over time we established a standalone nonprofit under the umbrella of JSA, and it was called Access Navigators. And it helps people impacted by disabilities find their way around restaurants and attractions across New England. We became really, really good at this and really, really well known for doing this. Last year, the state of New Hampshire gave us a commendation for changing the lives of people around the state of New Hampshire. Because we were out and about speaking to groups, advocating, I started to build relationships with a lot of people across the state of New Hampshire, across Maine, across Massachusetts, people who we were speaking to about accessibility, but people who were business people. And because of that, we started to realize that I couldn't build these relationships and get proposals out the door at the same time. I needed to pick one. And I realized it was time to maybe say goodbye to the army of one of getting all these proposals out the door. And at the same time, that meant I was no longer on deadline every day of my life. And I was gifted with Sarah Curtis, who a lot of you know, who is now the deadline person who gets all those proposals out the door. And so my career path got a little more defined. And this is when I really started to move into straight business development. So this is what we're really here to talk about, not how did Anne get here, but I think it's good for you all to know that all of us can have a really wiggly path along the way and end up, end up somewhere you don't even expect to end up, but end up in a good place. So SMPS tells us that business development is the process of identifying clients and opportunities, developing relationships, securing profitable work for the firm. I kind of condense that into 3 words. I call it find the client. And as it turned out, Access Navigators became my gateway for meeting people. I even changed the title on my business card. Instead of saying business development, I said community engagement. And it's a little bit less threatening. People don't look at me like I'm the salesperson for JSA. They just look at me as a knowledgeable person for JSA. And there's kind of a difference there. I get a better reaction. So this whole Access Navigators background that became my gateway, what I want you all to be thinking about is what is your expertise? It's probably not in accessibility. It could be, you know, I know Heather's got this thing with sailboats. How could she leverage her sailboat expertise into business development, and for what company? How could you work that? I think we're all experts in something, and you may be unprepared or not thinking deeply enough about how you could leverage that expertise. One of the things I found that brings me more than anything is speaking engagements like this right now. And I know what some of you at least are thinking. You're thinking, I'm not a speaker. And I'm here to say, yes, you are. All of you are speakers. And what I learned at the beginning when I started speaking is that there's a trick. Now this is where my presentation goes into a little bit, well, back in the day, back before, and then how are we now? Back before, when we were all in a room together, the trick was to really focus on what that presenter was saying. And whatever interesting question is sort of popping into your head, write it down or remember it. And then when you get to the Q&A part, you raise your hand, even if no one else has stood up in the room. You stand up, you introduce yourself and your company. It's, hi, I'm Anne Weidman, and I'm with JSA Architects in Portsmouth. And I'm wondering if you've ever considered putting ocean liners in Lake Winnipesaukee, or whatever your question is. And at that moment, you are now the speaker to that room. You've become the speaker. Everyone's heard your name. Everyone's heard your company name. And you've done a thing. You've been a speaker. I also have learned the whole attending events thing. It's not really about the event. And this is all, even on the raising your hand, answering the question, whether you're in a room or whether you're on a Zoom, it's all the same. The thing right now, you're attending this event. Hopefully you're here because you all think I'm going to be amazing, which who knows, I'll try. But you know, a lot of our events are more like networking events. We don't really know. We're fingers crossed that the right person's going to be in the room or on the Zoom. It's not always about that event. It's who's there. And so you need to work hard to find out where your potential clients go. I had a client I was tracking for about a year. I just couldn't seem to get a response from her. I saw that her company was a sponsor of an event in Maine. I signed up for the event. It was an all-day event. I got there early, used the ladies' room, and guess who's in the ladies' room? The woman I'm trying to cross paths with. Had my conversation. By 8 in the morning, I had accomplished what I needed to accomplish. And then I actually did sit through the whole day event because I was embarrassed to get up and leave. But I had accomplished that all in the first 15 minutes of the day. It's really, it's such a plus if you can get an attendee list ahead of time. A lot of times I can see it on Eventbrite. Usually I can't see it till I've signed up, but if you noodle around, it's there. One of my pet peeves, and I think this is more about real events, and I'm saying this like I'm assuming real events are going to come back someday. I think they will. I don't know when or how, but I think they will. I have gone, this is a giant pet peeve, I have gone to real events and they give you the name tag that they printed out from the sign-up list, and your first name is giant on that tag and your last name and your company name are so tiny that no one can read it. And that is the most frustrating thing in the world to me. So I make sure ahead of time, this is for a real event more than a Zoom event, if there's a target and you're going to that event to find that target, make sure you know what they look like. I usually go to LinkedIn, I do a screenshot of their picture, I drop it somewhere in my phone. Sometimes I've honestly, if I had a lot, I've printed them out on a piece of paper, so maybe during a presentation I can sort of use it as a cheat sheet, see if I can find that person. At real events, I had perfected the perfect handshake. And this is back in the day. I'd come in for that handshake like we all do. And then with my left hand, I'd come in for the grab. And now I've basically tackled you and I'm going to hold you in place and look you right in the eye and say that, you know, I've bought myself an extra 10 seconds by doing this. And that 10 seconds lets me say something important to the person. That said, you know, every time I admit someone, I lose my ability to do slides. Oh, here we go. Those perfect handshakes are probably gone forever. So without the perfect handshake, and assuming that we're going to be on Zooms for a while, what is it that we do have? Well, all we have right now is our face. And we all have it after the presentation when I stop screen share and we come back and we look like Hollywood squares. This is what we've got. And we've got to pay attention to what we look like on our screen shares, on our headshots here. The far right, that actually is Louis, who is our office dog, and I'm sharing him because we love him so much. The other two, not so good. Back in March, I knew right out of the gate that I looked like I was in a dark hole. There was nothing available on the internet. I tried to figure it out. I went to the basement and I brought out Christmas lights and I attached them onto a thing I clamped on top of my computer, and honestly, it worked pretty well. I started, things started popping up over time of ways to do it better.
Come on, guys.
And one of the YouTubes said, put a light on each side of your webcam, and I did, and that actually worked pretty well too. Today I have a little cube light on top of my webcam. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. It depends what light is coming in my window, but I always take a look at it before I start my presentation to see, can you actually see my face or am I in a black hole? Also, take a minute to look behind you. We've all seen this too. The unmade bed, the weird thing above somebody's head. One of the JSA principals, when he's on a work from home day, his ceiling fan is right above his head and it looks like it's a propeller on top of a beanie cap. And I really should give him the heads up on that. Except I'm so amused by it that I haven't said anything, and every time we have a meeting, I get to look at the propeller on top of his head. It's not that hard to really do a nice job, whether you're Zooming from home or Zooming from the office. There's Sarah Curtis again. Her background is fabulous. Keep it clean, keep it bright and light, make people be able to engage with you on Zoom. But even if it's only a Zoom and it's only an hour of your time, not every event is worth your time. Just because it's a good event doesn't mean it's good for you. I have gone to a lot of local networking events that were not industry specific, where the whole room was filled with chiropractors and financial planners and residential realtors, and it's a zero. And even on Zoom, I'm finding the same thing. I'm getting much, much pickier. The way to be picky is to be like Katie. Those of you who were on the Katie call, which was 2 weeks ago, about doing research, be like Katie. Know what's happening in your world and do your research. Get these kinds of things flowing into your inbox so that you know events and things that are happening. I'm hearing somebody that's not muted, so if somebody's not muted, mute yourself. Another thing that I've learned, and honestly I still struggle with, is being organized, particularly in the work from home. Everything is so different, and I feel like so many things are crossing my path. I have a once a week meeting for business development, and what we talk about is, what did we do last week? What did we do this week? What are we doing next week? And I feel like a little bit like the weather forecaster, just trying, it's very concise. We keep it really short. And then at the end, we do a way out in the future and see who's doing what next fall, next spring, what about conferences, that kind of thing. Things that you did in the past, the weird jobs you had, like the ones I had, can be surprisingly helpful, and don't discount them. Learning how to drive that Zamboni, you have no idea how many times I use that as a conversation starter. When I'm at an event and I detect from someone's accent that they might have grown up in Canada, it's one of the first things I talk about, and every single time that's a hit, especially if it's a guy. I hate to be gender specific here, but if it's a guy and he's Canadian, he definitely played hockey, and all of a sudden I'm his best friend. The photography that I honed back at the rink, though I'm not doing much architectural photography these days because thankfully we can actually afford the big guys, I am doing all of our headshots in the office, and our headshots are better because my coworkers know me, and they're not as weird as they are when there's a professional sitting them down like it's school picture day. I get more of what they really are in the picture, and they're great. Just some reminders here. Everything that you do in your life is business development. Every single day, every place you go, every person you meet, you are always representing your firm. I'm always surprised at the connections I make at places where I'm not really trying to make connections. Everything in business development is about people. Here's the top 3 things that I know in business development. Everything is about the people, and everything is about the people, and yep, everything is about the people. It's all about the people and the relationships. So we started off with this talking about a golf course thing. I am not a golfer. Those of you who do business on the golf course, God bless you. It sounds like a great place to do business. People have wonderful successes, but I can't even hit the ball. So I've never had that opportunity to be the person who does business on the golf course. So what's my golf course? I didn't realize it for a few years, but the rink at Strawberry Bank has actually turned into my golf course. I was on the committee of people about 7 years ago that made this happen in the city of Portsmouth. I'm there all the time in the winter. Honestly, all year round, people identify me as the lady who skates. And I have started doing business there. What has happened when I'm at the rink and all these people are there, sometimes I see somebody who is either in government or is a developer, and I get talking, and I've actually put opportunities into my pipeline from people I've bumped into at the rink. I have skated with TV people, I've skated with our governor, I've been in ice shows. I'm totally identified with this place. So when I reach out to people in December, January, and February, which are yucky months to do anything, and ask for a phone conversation, or maybe I'm on the phone and we talk about, do you want to get a coffee? I will almost always throw out, is there any chance you know how to skate? Do you want to come skate with me? And we're talking during the workday, Monday through Friday. There's no one there. Generally, the rink is empty. And I probably about 75% of the time people say, yeah, I'll come skating with you. And I get an hour undivided attention from somebody who's never going to forget me because we went skating. Like, who does that for business development? But I do. And I've put projects in the pipeline from being there. But right now, what about my pandemic golf course? In the beginning of June, there was a landscape architect who reached out to about 50 design professionals in Portsmouth and said, holy cow, the city of Portsmouth isn't doing anything about expanding dining outdoors, and I think we need to help them as design professionals. Who's in? And of course, I raised my hand, you know, I'm in, I just say yes. And so I'm in for this. And I became the spokesperson for this group because I'm not really a design professional. And we put together a 50-page workbook, which has actually gone to cities all over the country, full of ideas for how to expand dining into your downtown spaces. And this is all really good. And I feel like, you know, for at least these couple of months, I'm kind of wearing my crown or something when I go downtown because we've been so successful at this. But what it's really done is that I have now met every department head at City Hall, and every single day, they are calling me, asking me to find some help for them from the design group. It's not me reaching out to them. They actually reached out yesterday, an hour from now, and doing a presentation to them on what's happening downtown right now and how's the evolution of it going. I'm constantly on with them. At the same time, looping this back to Access Navigators and JSA Design, I recruited one of our architects to step in and be the pro bono architect for a pop-up performance space that's happening downtown that's under construction right now. And Access Navigators, when I put that hat on, I've been taking a look at all the outdoor dining spaces and evaluating them for how would this space work for a person using a wheelchair. And we're putting up reviews on these outdoor spaces aimed at people impacted by disabilities. And through that, our JSA website and our Access Navigator site, every time I do one of these, gets thousands of hits. And so we are driving people to our site with this unusual information about accessibility in outdoor dining. So the challenge I'm throwing out to all of you is that there's people everywhere, and it's a lot to sift through to find the right people and to find the right places where you might be asked to do something and you learn that you can just say yes, and that will help you find that client. So I'm going to sign off of this, inviting you all, of course, to come skate with me in December when, fingers crossed, the rink actually will open. But also to say that in today's marketplace, I can't think that I am an expert at all because I don't have any more experience than the rest of you. We're all, what, three months experienced on how to build business with Zoom calls and social distancing. So I'd like to stop the screen share and then hear from all of you of what are you doing, what I think we're all doing unusual things, and what things are you doing that's allowing you to kind of build the relationship with new people, existing people, keep it going, what's happening in your world. So let me sign out there. There we all are. And I would just love to hear, and I think we all need to hear, you can turn on your cameras and unmute yourselves and see, you know, what's happening.
Yeah, I'll go first. So, you know, for me, what I think has worked in some situations, not in all, but I came up with a few different locations that allowed us to meet while socially distancing outside. So whether that was like a park and a park bench, or a coffee shop that had outside seating, or a bar area that had outside seating. And, you know, that's worked in most situations where people are like, thank you. Like, I really needed someone to kind of take this initiative and invite me to that. So that's mine.
Yeah, and I've invited people to go for a walk. I've gone walking with people, drive to their town, go for a walk. Nobody seems to want to be inside, including me.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do come November, but for now, I'm keeping it outside.
Skating, hopefully.
Skating, hopefully. I mean,
Hopefully.
there's been no decision yet on can we open, but I think that one's not going to be as difficult to manage outside.
Especially if it's outside skating, yeah.
And if it's cold, you know, you got your scarf wrapped around your face, so the face covering is easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's Heather.
I'm currently unemployed right now, so it's a little bit of a different approach for me. I'm not hunting projects, I'm actually hunting employment.
Right.
And so one of the things
it's the same, don't you think?
It is. It absolutely is,
100%. It's the same.
And I'm finding it's very easy to slip out of the work mode factor when you actually don't have to get up and go to a job per se. So I've made a rule that I am required to call 3 people within my network circle a day during the business week just to connect. And I'm not immediately asking them, hey, have you heard of any positions open? I'm just asking how they are. And bringing it more down to a personal level, which I think is kind of something I've always done to a certain extent anyways, but I think it's this day and age is even more important considering what everybody's been going through and the new challenges that we're facing. Just really truly asking, how are you? How are you doing? How are your kids? How's everybody handling all of this in your life? And what are you doing for fun? And that seems to open up the conversation on a much broader level.
There's certainly no lack of things to talk about, is what I've found.
Yeah.
I'm finding the commercial projects, I'm not finding a ton to chase. I have to, for our market sectors at least. Everybody's sort of wary, gotta wait and see, not sure. Senior living's moving forward a little more than the rest. And we design dorms for college campuses, and those are not happening right now.
Well, I don't really count business development as one of my primary job functions. The thought of it actually kind of makes me sweat. Although I think I could do it, because I do feel like it's really just all about being a person and relating to somebody.
It's true.
Obviously, it's more technical than that, but I would just say from a marketing perspective, what we've done, and Jeannie, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, because Jeannie's been a lot more closely involved in it than I have, but where all of these events have been canceled, and we go to a ton of events where we present to try to get our expertise out there. And we have this whole thing on, you know, we have a metric that we try to achieve in terms of like earned media, and those opportunities are just fewer and far between. So we've started producing our own webinars, and inviting clients and potential clients. And actually, I mean, it seems kind of like insane that we hadn't really done it before, because we have this captive audience where our competitors are not. We're the ones controlling the microphone. We're the ones controlling the message. So we're able to get our expertise out there to a very targeted audience. And I think in the past we didn't do it because, I don't know, we just felt like we'd be competing with, you know, these live events, in-person events, and people would rather go to those. And maybe when if things get back to normal, the webinars maybe won't be as popular. But I think if you've got good content, people will come, and it's just a lot easier to, you know, follow up with leads in that regard. So that's been I guess a bright side to all of this.
Some of the events that I've gone to over a period of time, I've noticed the attendees are way up right now. You know, like things that I'm going to have to drive, things in Boston that I never go to.
Yeah.
But I'd like to. I'm attending them. The BSA healthcare committee, they used to get maybe 30 people. The last event they had 180 people logged on.
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
yeah.
Zoom is not a bad format.
No. And I found myself, like, I'm signing up for, you made a really good point. Not every event is a good event, or at least not for you, but I sign up for a bunch of stuff and then I don't end up attending all of them, but I like to get the recording or whatever later, and maybe if I have time I'll listen to it, which, let's face it, never happens, but it's there if I need it.
And that was a more important thing, I felt like, when we were attending in person.
You pay attention.
Because honestly, everything I go to, it's driving an hour. And if I'm going to drive an hour, go to a 2-hour event, drive an hour home, that better be a really good event. I'll go once or twice, or, you know, if it's some recurring thing, I'll go a couple of times. And if I'm really not getting anything from it,
right,
that's not worth my time. But, you know, but then the Zoom, at the beginning, there were a lot of businesses that thought a happy hour would be cool. And they did business events from 4 to 6 or from 5 to 7, and I was just like, no way. My husband is downstairs, and he has mixed me a cocktail, and I am not sitting up here on a business happy hour. Not happening.
Yeah.
This is great. We're a little ahead of time, which nobody ever hates when the thing is less than what you kind of had on your calendar. If nobody has anything else, I think we can wrap and say adios and get out there and find your client.
Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Anne?
Hi, this is Jen Booth.
Hey, Jen.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can. Your picture's adorable, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I'm not work or photo ready, so no photo. I'm sorry I was late, but I think you make some really good points, Anne, and you know, just an idea that I had, and I don't know if anybody's doing it, is, you know, online or in-person networking is maybe limited at best, right? But I wonder if anybody has started Zoom like BD groups. Always be an option to reach out to some people that you talk to often, or that you team with, or that you like professionally, and just get together once a month and discuss opportunities that they know of. Might be a really good way to.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And you can do that for clients as well if they're open to it. You know, I'm going to talk about this next week, but you know, trying to find out about opportunities before they hit the street is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a Zoom meeting.
I'm a part of a bunch of private lead groups that I've started probably 10, 15 years ago that are still, I'm proud to say, are still going. And it's one person from each industry that I network in, and they're still going. We still continue to hold them via Zoom. It's not as much as fun as we had at the breweries we used to host them at, but we're still staying connected. And even if it's not a matter of having a lead available to share, it's just the connection and the conversation and the, hey, you know, so-and-so, would you mind doing an introduction? I've been trying to get in there. and it's fun. You make friends out of it too, like personal friends. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I'll be curious to see when we get back to, well, if and when we get back to big rooms full of people. I got really good at those rooms. I know I'm starting over.
Yeah, I agree. It's like so much is different now, and when are we gonna be able to do those things and be comfortable with that, you know, at work and in personal life? So I'm a little scared about that, but one day at a time.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey everybody. It's nice to see you, and thanks for attending. And it's next week. Jen, do you want to give yourself a promo? What's your topic?
Sure. It's the elements of a great proposal. So, or a winning proposal. That would have been a better title.
It's true.
Last minute edits.
Yeah. So I'm just talking about the things that you need to make sure you're doing that really create a proposal that is going to be a winner or, you know, highly evaluated. So, you know, you're not going to win everything, but there's some really important things that you need to do during the proposal process while you're writing it and before that can make a difference. So that is what I'll be talking about.
Great. Sounds good. We'll be there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Anne, for your presentation. Such great ideas, super helpful. And everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Great. Thank you.